there, and welcome to part 2 of So I Got My Converted Ultra course, now what? In part 1, we discussed how we could move over all of our course information. Remember the boilerplate information like our syllabus, our schedule, and any other policies or virtual office-y types of things, and how that could be organized in the Ultra environment. Our next bit of business is the ability for you to get in and organize your units, put them together how you'd like them to be. So that being said, I want to get to it so we can get to everything that we need. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. That being said, welcome back. Welcome back to your Ultra course that you received. Remember, you got everything kind of in discrete learning modules or discrete chunks in terms of your course. And now it's just the way for us to massage all that, to get it in a format that's better for you and your course. Now, as always, the way that I'm showing you may not be the way that you ultimately do it, and that's okay. What's important is that you organize it so your students know how to get through it. So, that being said, I want to remind you where we've been, right? So, in the old course, your units, we had to click on here to get to your units. You then kind of had something that told you what the units were, and then your units showed up, right? That being said, as I'm scrolling here, here's the first unit for this particular course. Unit 1, January 12th through 18th is that particular unit. And opening it up in original, it would all show up like this, right? Well, Ultra, remember, everything shows up on one page. It collapses, it expands, it's easier to access for your students. So we need to rethink somewhat what we're trying to do. How can I get my students, how can I keep Unit 1 from being buried beneath a Units folder? So I could, hypothetically, I could keep my structure the way it is now, right? I could have a Units learning module and leave all my folders inside of it and just go through and change anything I want to do. However, for a ease of access standpoint for your students, for a just looks better kind of standpoint in your course, I would recommend you separating your units out into discrete learning modules. And those are the steps that I'm going to take you through right now. All right. So much like we did the last time, we need to create something to move our newly migrated stuff into, right? So I want to start by creating a Unit 1 learning module. So I'm going to click here and go to create, just underneath my start here and above the old units, because that's going to be easier for me to drag stuff that way, right? So I'm going to click on create. And then I'm going to choose learning module. Now, a learning module in Ultra is it's what we recommend because it allows students to paginate through the content of the module, meaning they don't need to open up the module, click on the thing to open it, then close it, click on the next thing to open it, then close it, click on the next things to open it and close it. That's what you get with a folder. With the learning module, they get the benefit of just paginating through, of going from page to page inside. So I go to the first thing, hit the arrow, go to the next thing until I get to the end and do whatever activity I'm supposed to be doing in that particular course. So, that being said, I'm going to choose to create a learning module. Now, in this case, I know it's Unit 1, and I'm going to leave out the due dates for now. My recommendation for you is never to put due dates in a title. Just make because you have to go and change them later. So just make it part of your course schedule. Anything you put in your calendar shows up in the calendar for the course, which is also beneficial. But again, that's up to you. I'm not gonna nickel and dime you with how to do what you do. So my recommendation is to keep you from having less editing. Don't put the date in the title. Make it part of the calendar. Anyway, that being said, so we have the Unit 1, I can make it visible, and then I would come up with a description. By description, I always like to give my students context of what's going to be, what Unit 1 covers, right? So in this case, it might be something like orienting you to the course and covering some math concepts to ensure your success, right? Whatever that could be. Click to open or to access content. All right, now, In this case, I kind of know what's in this, what's going to go in this. It's going to deal with some orientation types of things. It's also going to cover some math, some statistics, some things like that. So what I think would be kind of cool is if I made sure that my module had a graphic that kind of implied what we might be covering inside of it. So I can do that pretty easily here in this Unit 1 module. And if I scroll down past where the description is, the next thing you see is for sequence. One of the things that I can do with the learning module is ensure my students go through the content in an order that I would like them to. So they have to go through the first thing before they get to the second thing, go to the second thing before they get to the third thing. That's just the way that's done. You don't have to do that. In this case, I'm going to leave it unchecked, but you can do that just by simply clicking on the for sequence. So now I'm going to choose Add Image. This is newish. It came last fall. We got access to this, but when we got, or last summer, we got access to the images, and then fall we got access to the even better, which is what I'm about to show you. So I'm going to click on my Add Image button. Again, down here, I can click on the little Add Image button or click here on Add Image, and it takes me to this screen. From this screen, if I had an image to upload, I could upload one. I don't always have that as an instructor. I may not even know if I have access to some copyright-free stuff that I can get access to, right? Well, guess what? Ultra allows you two tools that can help in that regard. So you can use the AI design assistant to generate images that you want to show up there. So if I wanted to ask AI, to give me some, I could give it like something, a topic, and it would generate an image. I like the Unsplash images the best. And the reason I do is because they come over with alt text already. What does that mean? That means that when I bring my image over, it already has an alternative description for those folks that can't interact with the image from a visual standpoint. So if I click on this one, stock images from Unsplash, and I choose, right now there's math and success, but I know that I'm going to cover a little bit of math and statistics maybe. Whoa, I can't spell. Statistics, right? I can then go and find a graphic that works for me, right? So let's say it's this one. And I'm going to hit next. It says, okay, Jacob, where do you want that graphic to show up? How do you want it to show up? Here's fine. I kind of like how that's kind of off center like that. So I'm going to hit save. And when I do, you're going to notice I scroll down that in this case it didn't. So I would want to uncheck the alternative text here. I could say that it's decorative. Some does come over with descriptions and some doesn't. So I'm going to come here and type in, statistics represented in a chart on a laptop. Basically just giving them an alternative representation of that, right? And then when I'm done, I just say, okay, save. Now, I've got my first unit, and I notice that I have a misspelling. So to edit that unit, I would click on my three dots over here and choose Edit, and come back and add the I. Now, again, I could come down and change the image if I wanted to as well. But now that I have this first unit, I want to add my things that are down here in Unit 1 into it, right? How do I do that? The same way that I did before. I drag and drop them. So I come down to Unit 1, and I drag the first thing up that I want to go into that unit, and I place it in there. Ta-da! It's there. I go down to the second thing, place it in just under that. I'll go down to the next thing, these tasks that we have here. And again, task 3, task 4, and lastly, my activity. In this case, it's a quiz, and they show up there. So that's pretty cool. It's all in my first unit now. So I have my first unit, orienting you to the course and covering some math concepts to ensure your success. Click to access the content. And then my student would click, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. But first, I want you to see inside the unit right now. Inside my unit, I have everything is hidden. If I want to get a preview of what this looks like for my students, I'm going to need to unhide it. Now, there aren't any students in there now, so it's okay for me to unhide it because I'm working out of essentially what is a sandbox course for you. So how can I do that? I could come to each one of these guys individually and change them all to visible. That might get a little annoying. So one of the secrets that we'll tell you in our third, or not a third, in one of our other, in part of the series that we're showing you now, is how I can actually go up to my batch edit utility. So up at the top of my course content page, there's a nice little 3 dots right there. And I can get in and batch edit and change those dates in one fell swoop. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to show you in another series. But in this case, for this course, I'm just going to go ahead and change them really quick right here. And you see how easy it is to do this. Changing these things to visible is just clicking a little, is just clicking a little menu and changing it to visible. Same thing with this one. In the old one, in old Blackboard, I'd have to edit it and then make it visible. Here, on the page that it lives on, I can make them all visible. Now, I will show you how a student might interact with said content. And I will go to my student preview, start my student preview. And lo and behold, there is Unit 1. Now, I can click on Unit 1 as the student. Currently, I know it's not started because I haven't done it yet. It tells the student that they haven't looked at it yet, which is nice. So I'll click on it and then start with January 12th through 18th. You will note at the top of each page, there's an arrow on the right-hand side that lets them move on to the next thing in the unit. So here, it tells them what they're going to do. All right, move on. Okay, here's my task 1. Here's my background knowledge, right? Here's some statistics introduction and data types. I can go and open up these things inside, and they're already showed up as embed. I can download them if I want to. I can go on to the next task. Task 4 is there. And then lastly, my quiz as a student. Is the last thing, right? So I click on that, and it will let me start and access the quiz. Now, later on, I'll show you how to adjust due dates and all that stuff that you're going to want to do for your course. But from a moving content standpoint, that's pretty much it. And then it keeps track for the student. Another great thing I love about the modules in Ultra, it keeps track for the student of the things that they've looked at. As a student, also at this point, I can click on these things to signify that I've finished them. So I can click them again. It changes it to a checkbox. Woohoo! Exciting stuff, right? Neat. So that being said, I'm going to discard all of that. I don't need to keep my data as a student. But that's Unit 1. So I want to rinse and repeat and do this one more time for Unit 2. So you get a feel for how we go about massaging this. So you can kind of get an understanding, an inkling of what will make this easier for you. So just underneath Unit 1, I'm going to come in here and click on my plus button in between where it says Units and Unit 1. And I'm going to create a learning module called Unit 2. Right? So I'm going to hit save and come back and add the image in a second because I wanted to see in my units area down here, I can actually get rid of Unit 1 now because I brought everything over. It's empty. So I'm going to get rid of Unit 1 and I'm going to go look at Unit 2 and see what's inside of it. And the reason I'm going to do that is so I know, measures of central tendency, measures of variability. All right, so I'm going to choose measures of I'm going to choose one of these distribution shapes, right? Or whatever. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go back to Unit 2 and I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to click on my 3 dots. It's a learning module, remember? And I'm going to edit that unit, that learning module that I created called Unit 2. And I'm going to come down to my image and choose this and choose, there's different options here, right? So instead of stock images for Unsplash, I could choose generate images. So I'll click on generate images. And then I would come in and type in distribution shapes and hit generate. And so what it will do is it will leverage AI and using Azure and Microsoft in the background, it will actually go and create images, distribution shapes. Now, this is an example of why that might not be the best example. Now, this is kind of more metaphoric in its example, right? It's not necessarily that. So I could be like, I could go distribution curve instead and see what it gives me. But like I can leverage search for specific things that it can generate for me. And that would automatically, I could use it inside the course. This is just the first time I showed you how to do this. In Unit 1, I showed you how you could use Unsplash to bring that stuff over, right? In this case, this is just an example of what, again, a metaphoric kind of artistic look at it. So I might choose to go back from Unsplash. And I would go distribution and curve, or distribution and shapes. Oh, how about this? Distribution curve. So finding the right thing does take a little bit of work, right? So math and distribution. Okay, so I could find what I was looking for, bring it in. Again, finding what you need to do does take a little work, and finding the right words. But I can find whatever that might be, hit next. It would bring over whatever it is I'm bringing over, and I can hit save. Again, I could choose to come down here and type in whatever that image is, so that I'm providing fair access to folks that cannot see it visually. You know, it could be something like distribution equation on board, and hit save. And so now I've got Unit 2. Again, remembering that in editing that unit, remember, to edit anything that you have in Ultra, you access the ellipses or the 3 dots. So hit it, go to edit, and I would add in a little bit of a primer for my students on what's going to be inside that unit. So in the description for that box, I would come in and be like, okay, I'm going to edit it. I'm going to give it an example of what's going to be inside it. And I was having issues here, so I'm going to hit back and edit one more time. All right, we're having a couple issues there. It might just be my internet connection, so we're going to ignore it for now. But what I want to do is go ahead and do what I did before, and that's go to Unit 2 here and start dragging in each of these things. So I could bring up here and drag it straight into Unit 2 so that it shows up inside Unit 2. Same thing for this one. Again, keep dragging it so that it shows up inside Unit 2. And last 2 things, bring up task 10, boom, and then the quiz. Now, in my old units area, I could come in and delete it because I've already pulled everything out. And now I've got Unit 2 showing up right here, just underneath Unit 1. So that I have my course information. I might have an orientation unit set up right here. I've got Unit 1, Unit 2, and inside Unit 2, I've got all the stuff. I could come in now and make the entire unit. I could make it visible to students by coming in and changing each one of these, right? And organizing it just like this. So you can see now it's not that hard to once you have your converted course, to start to organize your course in chunks and getting it accessible for students, and let your students know that everything for inside that you're going to need to do for Unit 2 lives in this Unit 2 module, right? And they can get in there and get access to what they need to. Remembering, of course, that they page through that. It's different from your view, but from the student's view, when they click on Unit 2, they can page through the content. So we started in part 1 looking at organizing our course information area. Now we're talking about the guts of the course, getting all that organized into those chunks. I hope this walkthrough has been helpful for you. I hope it's given you at least some thoughts. Remember, the way we're setting it up right now is not the way you need to set it up, right? You could have just stayed with one complete learning module called Units and had a folder inside of it called Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 5. And because those folders are inside that learning module, it will also inherit the pagination. I like to have less Russian nesting doll for my content. So I don't want them to have to click inside of a thing, to click inside of a thing, to click inside of a thing. So what I do is just separate my units out. So I've got Unit 1 and Unit 2, And then with Unit 2, I can see everything that has to do with Unit 2. I can page through it. So that being said, I hope you like part 2 of our So I Got My Converted Ultra course, Now What? And I'll look for you next time. Thanks a lot.